Scott Taylor. So, Scott Taylor, our star of the show now, the Data Whisperer. Scott Taylor, the Data Whisperer, has helped countless companies by analyzing business executives to the strategic value of master data and proper data management. An avid business evangelist and original thinker, he continually shares his passion for the value of data management through industry events, speaking opportunities, blogs, videos, white papers, podcasts, cartoons, puppet shows, and all forms of thought leaderships. I am very, very excited for this. And he, Scott has published a book. He will probably mention it during his talk, and I urge you to buy it. So, Scott,
hello.
Take it away, right. Scotty.
Take it away here. Thank you so much for the introduction here. Hello, everybody. Let me pin me. Should I pin me here? Spotlight for everyone.
Yeah.
There we go. My full screen here. All right.
Yeah, looking good.
Here we go. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for sharing your evening with me. It's still only noon here in Connecticut, in the U.S., but thrilled to be talking to DAMA Iceland. I wish I was there in person. I actually have a airline credit on Icelandic Airlines, so you may see me yet before all this is over in the next year or so. So I've got to spend that and come out and visit everybody. But I'll be here sharing with you, telling your data story, how to leverage the 3 V's of data storytelling for data management. That is my particular focus. I'm thrilled here to be continuing my virtual world book tour, celebrating my book, Telling Your Data Story. And this is the 35th DAMA chapter I have presented to this year. So we're rolling right along here. It's the last one I have on my calendar. So thank you for having me as well. Elsa, who's out in the crowd there, I'm sure. Thanks for setting this all up. Couple of quick housekeeping things here. Please mute yourself, obviously. Looking for my remote here. Spotlight me or pin me as the speaker, because I'll be sharing my slides through the camera, not separately. That tends to be a better experience. If, however, you're not seeing them clearly or something happens technically, I'm asking the organizers to just yell and interrupt me, because once I get going, I'm not even looking at the chat here. So put your questions in the chat. We'll have some time at the end to review some of those and take some of them if we can. Feel free to post, take screenshots if you want to tweet, if you want to put something on LinkedIn, if any of this grabs you in any way. Delighted to have you share and amplify the story. The number one question I always get is, will there be a recording and a presentation available? Yes, there will be. So I'll send the PDF to the organizers. We'll make sure everybody gets that. And I think we're recording this to post on the DAMA Iceland website as well. So that'll be fun. Every enterprise has a data story to tell, and it's about why managing data is of strategic importance to your organization. Now, you know that. I know that. But the people who aren't on this call don't know that. Your CEO, do they know it? Does your business stakeholders understand it? Do your executive leadership really value and commit and focus and support your work in data management the way it should be? Probably not. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about that first word up there about why it's important. Many of you as data leaders, data practitioners, data experts in the data management space, you have tremendous experience and expertise on the how to get it done. We're not going to talk about the how today. We're going to talk about the why. And the reason is, I don't know a CEO. I haven't met any business leaders who care about the how until they understand the why. We're going to over-rotate on the why side here, the soft skill part of it, the way to create a compelling narrative to reach in and grab the hearts and minds of those executive leadership, because they got the money. It's all about the money. You got to get the money. If you don't get the funding for what you want to do, you can't get it done. So a quick poll here, you just show of hands or you can nod your head. Do you have any trouble getting funding, getting support, getting ongoing engagement, or all of the above? If you're like the other 34 chapters I've presented to, There's a lot of people out there going, yeah, we do. We don't get the money. Money always goes to, the analytics side, the BI side, the software, the enterprise platforms, all those other things that you and I know do not work without the work that you do. So I wrote a whole book about this, how to pull this whole data story together for data management. One of my favorite comments in Amazon, a must read for anybody who needs funding in data management. It's called Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management. As you can see right on the book cover, it is 99% buzzword free, and that's a guarantee, I guarantee. I didn't want to overpromise. A couple of them slip in there, but we've got to talk in a business accessible, jargon-free way to our stakeholders because they're not experts in the world that we're in, and we can't expect them to be. So we should all learn and use this approach for our data management efforts. Another favorite comment I have, my book's been doing well. In fact, it is the #1 data book in Amazon in performing arts. Now, let me explain that methodology. So through some sort of bizarre AI-based categorization process, Amazon has put my book, among other things, in the performing arts category. Maybe it's because I'm on stage on the cover. I don't really know. So I've ranked as high as number 46 in between an improv book and Suzuki violin playing. I looked at every other book in performing arts. I'm the only data book, which makes me the #1 data book in performing arts, no matter how I rank. So you can make analytics do whatever you want to, can't you? Let me sum up my whole philosophy about the space with this simple phrase here. You must determine the truth in your data before you derive meaning. Determine the truth, data management, deriving meaning comes out of analytics, but it's not chicken or egg here. It is egg and omelet. You need truth first before you get to meaning. Obviously, I'm on the truth team, hence the meaning of my truth hat. But as data managers out there, you've got to do that for your organization, right? You've got to curate the truth. You've got to steward and govern the truth. You can handle the truth for your organization around customer definitions, around product hierarchies, around that structural piece and the trust that your rest of your organization has in the data content you help manage, so they can go make all those important decisions that we know they have to make to drive action for your business. I don't mean anything personal here. Sometimes I get a little pushback on the words truth and meaning. There is no truth. What's the meaning of life? This is not about your personal philosophical journey. This is about business. It's about enterprise. It's about commercial. It's about doing the things we must do in our organization so we can leverage data and analytics in a way a lot of people wish they could. Got to determine the truth first before you derive meaning. My agenda for today here, I'll tell you a little bit about my data story, a little bit about my background, why you should even trust me and listen to me, why you need a data story that you need to tell to your organization, the relevance of data management in the context of all these other, what seems to be more exciting stuff going on in the technology space, the types of data storytelling, and leveraging these 3 V's, obviously a little knowing wink to the 3 V's of big data, but mine are vocabulary, voice, and vision. And then at the end, I'll show you an example of how we put this all in play to give you a sense of what this might look like. Now, everything I'm talking about is in my book. Pitch it again here, Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management. And I'll just kind of share some of the highlights with you for sure. And the best I can do today, my objective today, again, you know the how, but I just want to try and give you a new way to talk about what you already know. I don't do the work you do. I specialize in talking about how people talk about data. So if I give you a twist of phrase or an example or a metaphor or a different way to explain what you are already doing that makes that point better to your audience, then I did my job today. So hopefully I'll get it done. Before I go too far, I have to thank my sponsors. Even though it's 35 different chapters, I went to one physically, but the rest of them are all virtually here. They didn't have to pay for travel, but they are helping me sponsor this whole program over the year. The first one, Wind Shuttle, the great folks there who have a wonderful PIM and MDM platform. They've been doing that for a while. They recently got acquired by a company called Precisely. Another group that's been sponsoring me all year, the Comma Group. They're a boutique, or they're a consultancy focused specifically on MDM, data governance, changing the culture in your organization. So if you have that challenge, happy to connect you up with these folks. And an event I am super proud and thrilled as always to be part of, MDM Master Data Marathon 3.0, third time we've done it. At the end of the month, this month, 26.2 hours around the world, around the clock. Master data, data management, keep people up all night. This time we're going to keep them up for all the right reasons. We certainly get punchy around 2 a.m., but we go straight for 26.2 hours. You can get tickets to that through the Think Linkers site, and they're great folks to work with. We've got some tremendous speakers on that as well. So my background, as I mentioned, if I didn't already, I am the why, not the how. You need both, but I'm just going to focus on the why. I am probably a few decades in the data management space, having worked for some really iconic world-class data brands. Nielsen, Dun & Bradstreet, did some long-term consulting at WPP and Kantar. So I was on the supplier side, working and talking to enterprises. And through this experience, I had the delightful chance to speak to every type of enterprise at every level of data maturity in every kind of sector all over the world. And so what I try to do is kind of sum up the common challenges, the themes, the motifs, the trends, the stuff I see across every kind of company that is trying to struggle in the world of data management. And what I have found, and what you probably recognize too, is at the enterprise level, the challenges, the opportunities, the frustrations are more the same than they are different. When you're dealing with foundational data, with structuring data, with collecting, managing, and harmonizing data across an organization, many of the problems you have are very similar to other companies that are outside of your own business, because we're all dealing with that same kind of thing. So I provide now what I call data evangelism as a service. I work in this boutique consultancy called Meta Consulting. We're about what it's about. We talk about how people talk about data, and it's carved a nice little niche for me, and I'm having a ball. As you probably noticed already, spoiler alert, I don't do a whole lot of whispering, even though I'm the data whisperer. We save the whispering for the data itself to help manage that, but we have got to sell, tell, and yell about the power and value of data management to our organizations. And I've captured the attention of a number of folks out there who give me these wonderful accolades. I'm on the who's who of data management, according to Analytica, the #1 thought leader in big data, according to Thinkers 360, anointed the data god of data whispering by Crackdose, and a few other places. I'm really proud and thrilled and humbled by some of the attention I've gotten over the last couple of years, really just focusing on the need for data management at the strategic level. I do a tremendous amount of content. If you haven't seen it yet, take a look. It's all on YouTube, also on my LinkedIn profile. Some of the biggest posts I've done, the Tech Talk Puppets, Too Much Tech Talk, starring, as you can see on my hands, my two friends, the CDO, the Chief Dog Officer, and the ITB who speaks only in buzzwords. I've got a cartoon superhero backstory about master data, the most important data any organization has. And I recently posted just a wonderful story I told, data bedtime story I told my lovely grandson there. You can see him, the little red data hen, about a cautionary tale about what happens when you don't get proper stakeholder engagement. I'm going to ruin the ending for you, but it doesn't end happily, okay? So hopefully it'll help you end happily at your organization, but check all that stuff out. And I think I'm kind of hardwired for the data management, master data, structured data, ontology side of the space, because my parents told me as a kid, instead of building with my Lego, I sorted it. I'm sure some of you sorted your blocks when you were kids. Part of why you're in data management, I would suggest. You want to build those wonderful Lego castles and Lego experiences, but if the stuff isn't sorted first, it takes a lot longer. It's a lot less efficient. You can't trust what ends up being built. Sounds a whole lot like data management and analytics, doesn't it? I'm going to touch a lot on kind of the relationship between data and analytics, data management and business intelligence, because I see those as kind of two sides of what I believe is the same coin, but sometimes we're a little bit at odds with each other and we shouldn't be. So what inspired me to write this book as I'm listening out there and all this talk about data science and data literacy and data storytelling, where is the voice of data management? I didn't hear it. Do you hear it? When data scientists talk about all the work they do they talk about data management? They talk about it without talking about it. How many of you have heard a data science complain about, oh, we spend 80 to 90 to 120% of our time munging and wrangling data? Why don't they come to you first? If they want to operationalize the work they do, they should be coming to the data management group, talking to those peers to get that right structured data, the right definitions, before they spend too much time munging and wrangling. It's not going to get rid of all of it. I get that. But I feel like data scientists kind of go off on their own, produce something, and then come back later to see if it might work. Bit of a slight to them, but I see it a lot. So we need to get the voice of data management in those conversations. It's not about munging and wrangling. It's about providing that trusted content when they need it, sorting those Lego blocks so they can build the fun stuff later. If you follow Dataversity, a great site there connected with DAMA as well, they actually publish or they do a lot of work with a lot of the data leaders out there. And I read a wonderful blog from two iconic leaders, Tom Redmond, the data doc, and John Landley. And last March or April, it's May, it says on there, they posted this headline, Data Management Has Failed. As a community, we have failed to educate leaders and craft messages that people will listen to. I absolutely, totally believe that and completely agree. So I wrote my response the next month in June and said, well, data management hasn't failed, but data management storytelling has. Let's not kill the messengers. Let's fix the messaging. Data management messaging is very hard to listen to, and an overwhelming majority of data management programs suffer from an inability to demonstrate and then communicate business alignment. Demonstrate it and communicate it. Two things. You got to do it, then you got to tell somebody about it in a way that they understand it. It's just like evangelism. Two things. You got to people believe, and then you got to get them to practice. So we got to focus on that. Data management isn't failing, in the way we talk about it doesn't necessarily get through to the right folks in the right way, so they realize it's not some clerical back office project that a bunch of interns are going to do to cleanse data. It is as strategic as everything else people are doing with data in that organization. And this seemed to strike a chord with the data community because our blogs, John and Tom's and mine, they were number 3 and 4 of all the posts last year in Dataversity. So that was nice to see. McKinsey, to reinforce this topic, they posted something last year in a white paper, said 6 ways to drive data governance excellence. If you look at 3 of them: secure top management's attention, integrate with primary transformation themes, and generate excitement about data. Talk about an emotional suggestion. All 3 of those reinforce the fact that you must tell a data story. How else are you going to get people excited? How else are you going to get their attention? You've got to tell the right and craft the right kind of narrative and story to reach and capture their hearts and minds. Well, let's talk about data management in the context of all these macro trends going on here and everything. You know, a lot of stuff gets more attention, is sexier, is shinier, tends to capture folks' attention better than data management. What are the transformational themes that are getting the attention of our C-level leadership? It's this kind of stuff. Whether you've leapt into e-commerce recently because of COVID, all of a sudden you had to get in there deeper than maybe you were prepared for, and let's just say your PIM wasn't ready yet. And you're in the financial services space, you got a KYC, you got to know your customer. Everybody's dealing with data privacy regulations popping up more and more all across the world. If you're doing artificial intelligence, contactless engagement. Who here hasn't gone into a restaurant, pull out your phone with a QR code to get the menu? You think that's going away? A lot of data and technology-oriented improvements that came out of this terrible pandemic we've been through, they're staying. which means our data's got to stay good to be able to fulfill those kinds of promises. Maybe you're moving from selling your widgets to licensing the value of your widgets as a service, a very strategic initiative for a lot of companies. Whether it's digital transformation, the Internet of Things, the fourth industrial revolution, all of these bubbles are filled with the big macro trends, and there are more that are focused on leveraging technology at the enterprise level. Wherever there's technology, there's hardware, software, data. Wherever there's data management or the need for it. So I'd suggest to you, data management is macro trend agnostic. No matter what these bubbles were filled with 5 years ago, no matter what they are today, no matter what fantastic ideas are coming up in the next 5, 10 years to replace them, they're all based on technology. If you have technology, you need data management. So it's your job to draw that connection. We don't see it as a big macro trend, better data. It's just assumed it comes along. So part of what I do is listen for these trends and figure out how data management's connected to them, because it always is. It's always there. It's always needed. So the truth about data management is the value of every digitally transformative customer initiative, every as-a-service offering, every foray into e-commerce, every enterprise software implementation is inextricably linked to the successful output of your data management efforts. No two ways about it. That's just a really big, fancy, long-winded way of saying G-I-G-O, garbage in, garbage out, rubbish in, rubbish out. We all know that. We learned that day one of data. But does it really drive any action? Do you ever hear somebody go, oh, that was the problem? No. So we've got to try and elevate that conversation too. Maybe somebody should say goodness in, goodness out. Same letters. But I like to think of this as the golden rule of data. Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you. What you put into data management is going to be what you get out of business intelligence. So you put bad data into an ERP, you get a lousy ERP. Bad data into CRM, missed customer opportunities. Bad data into FinTech, you might get a visit from the regulators. Bad data into ML, bad robots. Bad data into BI, BS. Bad data into AI, AS, artificial stupidity. No matter how you slice it or how you dice it, the golden rule of data prevails. Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you. Leads me to another often quoted quote of mine. Good decisions you make on bad data are just bad decisions you don't know about yet. Lots of different ways to say the same thing, but it's undeniable. So data storytelling, let's talk about that. The topic of today, data storytelling, probably the hottest non-technical thing going on in the data space. Lots of books about it. I took a look as I was trying to plan my own book. Here's 9 of them in Amazon. There's about 30 out there from some great authors, some great experts. 100% of them are about analytics. They're about business intelligence. That's an important topic. I don't say it's not. You've got to find ways to successfully put data in a business context to drive action. That's where data, the most tangible parts of data value, are recognized. But that's deriving meaning. Before that, we've got to talk about where data starts. That's data management. So now there's a book about data storytelling for data management. We've got to have both sides. So the analytics side of data storytelling, it's about business intelligence, deriving meaning, data literacy, data science, machine learning, AI, visualization, all these great disciplines that people have to understand. But then you've got the story about data management, determining the truth, data governance, data stewardship, data quality, master data, reference data, metadata, MDM, RDM, PIM, DAM, all those foundational activities that curate and steward and govern that core content that we need to share across our enterprise to make those decisions with confidence, to determine that truth before you derive meaning. Got to go in that order. So 2 kinds of data storytelling. One, business intelligence, telling stories with data and using it. The other, data management, telling stories about data and making it. Where data starts, where data ends up. I want to tell both. No, it's not Sophie's choice here. You don't have to pick one or the other. Every enterprise needs both, but as data managers, got to focus on that blue stuff. And hopefully some of this and some of the work I've done can help you. So just a reality check here. Again, going back to Amazon, maybe I'm too influenced by my own reviews and comments that people make, but you can't tell a book by its cover, but hopefully you can at least understand what it's about by its cover. I had this really lousy 1-star review. Somebody wrote nothing about data storytelling. It's about data management. Duh, it's right on the cover. Data storytelling for data management. Sorry you didn't read the second half of the cover of the book. So these other folks obviously read a little more than that. A must read, Data Management Made Sexy, a truly entertaining and amazing read. I won't go too long on my own kudos, but clearly some people have to read the whole cover of the book before they post their review. Now, when you start the data story, I want to tell you a few ways not to start it, okay? This might be a little heresy for some of you, but we got to break through some of the old ways we do stuff. The first way not to start a data story, a false start, if you will, is if you get that 5 minutes with your CEO or the board or your business stakeholders, and then you march in there and go, our number one thing we have to do is improve our data quality. We need high data quality. I'm talking this way on purpose because that's kind of how you sound to the business side when you start whining about data quality. Now, data quality is important. Don't get me wrong. It has to be managed. It has to be tracked. It's super critical. It just doesn't make a very good and compelling story. We've been talking about data quality for decades. If that was the way to get it done, we would have gotten it done already, but we're not. So quality is a very emotional, subjective term. Everybody has a definition of quality. And if your CEO stops you, which sometimes they do, right in the middle of the first sentence and goes, why do we need data quality? Well, because we are moving into e-commerce and we need to be able to reinforce our PIM situation. We've got to transform the way we deal with our customers. We're implementing all these new software, whatever that answer is, that's what you start with. That's the why. You know why you want better data quality. You know it isn't because it's just better to have better data quality. Data quality for itself is, meaningless exercise. So start with that why. And think about the word you use, which is a comment I'll make a lot. Quality, very subjective. Another false start is how many of you have started a presentation or seen one with data's the new oil. I got news for you. It's neither. It's not new and it's not oil. And the problem with this poetry here is that people are already debating it on the data side, on our own community. You've got people going, well, it is like oil because, you need to refine it. No, it's not like oil because it's, you can reuse it. And all this bickering back and forth proves the point I'd like to make, which is the purpose of imagery is to shortcut the time to understanding. If your audience doesn't immediately understand that imagery, it's not effective. So whichever side of that debate you land on, I'm telling you, it's not an effective way to start. And talk about not reading the whole thing. Anybody who's ever used this slide, I doubt has read the article that this slide is really referring to. Here's the headline. The world's most valuable resource is no longer oil, but data. Okay, that sounds good. But the subhead says, the data economy demands a new approach to antitrust rules, regulating the internet giants. Do you think this sounds like a positive story about data? It doesn't. So save this cliche, get rid of it. Spend too much time explaining it instead of just getting to the point. And the last one, just to pick on, which is another popular way people start, is we have more data now than ever before. There's more data created in the last 2 weeks than in the history of human existence. There's more data now than there was before. I started to say there's more data now than ever before. Again, I guess it's true, but does it have any meaning to your audience? Is it relevant to what you're talking about? Or is it just like, yeah, sunny days are nice. You're not making the point crisply enough. So with all respect to anybody who's used any of these, the old data stories have got to change if we want to break through, and that's what we need to do. Now, sometimes people start with our terminology. You got to watch that as well. If you're in the MDM space, you walk in your CEO's office and say, we need a golden record. And they go, well, that sounds expensive. Again, we know what these terms mean, but don't expect everybody else to. And if you explain what a golden record is in the first 15 minutes of your meeting, so everybody understands it, there goes 15 minutes of your meeting. Did that really make the point you wanted to make? So be very careful about the terminology we use with ourselves versus our business stakeholders. They don't need to learn our language. We need to learn theirs. People talk about data literacy a lot. How about business literacy? How about understanding your business in a way that they realize you do understand? A lot of people like to start with the analyst reports. I like to pick on Gartner. Why not? I'm over in the bleachers there, kind of picking on them a little bit. I really love, for all the wrong reasons, this ridiculous poll that they posted. Organizations measuring the value of master data, aside from it being upsetting, their numbers are 90% say, no, we do not measure it, and 10% says other. I'm assuming yes is another. Maybe it's yes, we do not measure it. I don't know, does this have any value? Or do you start this way? Yeah, look at this enterprise data model, spectacular. Our data engineering team worked overtime to make sure everything integrates. This is fantastic. It is 100% the how. You want to get kicked out of your CEO's office, start with this. You have to do it. It must be done. It's the way to get it executed, but it's not the way to get excitement and support and funding from your executive leadership. Save this for the implementation time. I think about the character you play when you walk in there. So you've got this meeting. Do you start up? Do you tell a fable? Or is it a pitch? Do you start as Hans Christian Andersen, there once was some ugly data? Or do you take the position of Don Draper, a personal hero of mine from Mad Men, not for what he did at work, not for what he did at home. That was a different part of the narrative. But at work, nobody could pitch like Don Draper. And that's what it is. That's the kind of story you are telling about data management. It's a pitch. If you have any sales training, use it. I actually have a couple chapters in the book, a couple pages in the book about sales training, because what you are trying to do is convince somebody of the benefits of what you have to offer. You are trying to take them through a process where they go from, I have no idea what you're talking about, to how do I live without this? You want them to commit to an action after your discussion. So a little bit of sales training couldn't hurt, but the kind of story you are telling, it's a pitch. So where do you start then? You start with the essence of your business. You start with the purpose of your organization, why you do what you do. And in case you're wondering, I do not believe that every company is a data company, or every company is a software company, or every company is an internet company. No, they're not, okay? You know who says that? Data and software and internet companies who are trying to sell you stuff. You're a company that does what you do and focus on that core deliverable, that core value. You'll use data, but that doesn't make you a data company. So every enterprise, and again, with my experience talking to every kind of enterprise at every level of maturity in every sector all across the earth, tried to boil it down to a basic premise that could be the same or extensible to every one of those kinds of enterprises. And it is that every enterprise is trying to deliver value to their relationships through their brands at scale. I'll repeat that, because I think that's what you want to do. Deliver value to your relationships through your brands at scale. That's your opportunity. The scale part. You can't scale without technology. Technology, hardware, software, data. You need data. You have data. You need data management. Pretty quick connection as far as I'm concerned. But for things to scale, they've got to have that technological aspect, and none of that technology works, as we can prove time and time again, without the work you do curating that data that goes in there. Only 3 ways to get value. You can grow the business, you can improve the business, you can protect the business. Everything you do in data has to do all 3 of those things. And the beauty of well-mastered data is that it can actually do all 3 of those things at the same time if you've got that stuff protected and managed in the right way. But you want to grow the business, increase sales, you want to improve the business operational efficiency, you want to protect the business, mitigate risk. All 3 of those things, the data management organization can help do. Now you've got to make this specific to your business. And to do that, you start to fill in the blanks. What do we mean by scale? What do we mean by value? What do we mean by relationships? Is it customer, vendor, partner, prospect, citizen, patient, client? Those are all relationships. You don't have a business if you don't have relationships, but you might call them something different. And being very specific and using that right nomenclature is absolutely critical. If you're a law firm or an advertising agency, you have clients. You don't call them customers. But if you're a packaged goods manufacturer, your retail partners are customers. The consumer is the end user. If you're in healthcare, obviously it's patients. They're all relationship types, but they're relevant to specific sectors based on the business they're in. So making sure you're fluent with that. Go to a new organization, has a different model. Make sure you know the names and the terminology you use about relationships. And the same thing with brands. Every business has a brand. It's a product, it's a service, it's an offering, it's a location, it's a banner, it could be a finished good made up of materials and ingredients. All these different factors that go into building and maintaining your brand. Now, if you're in the master data space, you're recognizing right away that these blue and green words are classic master data domains. So you got to ask yourself, how's the data you got in there? A lot of people struggle at the master data level. Duplicates, hierarchies that are inconsistent, taxonomies that are messed up, geographies that don't make sense. All those basic core foundational things. So if what your business wants to do, and I will tell you it does want to do it, provide value to your relationships through your brands at scale, how's the data you got on those relationships and those brands? If there's trouble there, you got to fix that first before you start doing all the other fancy analytic stuff. You know, attribute, this data, those blue and green words, that's what a lot of your other data is about. Customer sentiment is about customers. Brand activity is about brand. We've got to focus on those core elements first before we go too far in the other direction. I like to talk about it as kind of like rows and columns. People are really good at adding columns, but they really have a lot of trouble aligning rows. All those green and blue things, those are the rows. Rows are what the columns are about. Entities, attributes, instances, features. If you're in the data science world, same thing. You got to have the rows. Columns are easy, rows are hard. That's why we got to do the work we got to do. So let's talk about these 3 V's here: vocabulary, voice, and vision. So this first V, vocabulary, the words you use are critically important. You want to make sure you have a business accessible language and avoid those legacy lexicon. I already beat up quality. Again, quality is important, just doesn't make a good pitch. And all these other very tactical ad hoc project sounding words like cleansing and freshness and hygiene, data hygiene. You want to clear a room. Tell your business stakeholders, we're about to embark on our data hygiene program. They'll go running for the door. Who wants to do that? So think about more strategic words, foundational words, structure, standards. We're trying to establish a standard in our organization. People understand standards at an emotional level. Lots of examples of standards out there you could apply to your business, whether directly or indirectly, to describe it. And people get that. That drives interoperability. That drives the ability to connect seamlessly with other parties. So the enterprise terminology you use for relationships, offerings, segmentations, market geographies, and so on. I have a really quick video called the 4 C's of master data, the 4 C's of entity ontology, if you want to call it that. They are code, company, category, country. You need a unique identifier, that's a code. You need a parent-child relationship, so you know what company they belong to. You need a taxonomy, and so you know what kind of company it is for the category. And then just because they all start with C, you need a country or some form of geography. You have those 4 C's, as simple as they are. You're not going to do a data model off that, but you can explain it. You'll know where something is, what it is, who owns it, and that it's unique. Can you imagine all the data problems that go away if you had that on everything or almost everything? Also, leverage your own vertical nomenclature. Every sector, every business sector and category has its own set of terminology. There might be a business association that's published that. Your leaders and your business folks are familiar with that language. You can map that to your data side. And a lot of you have done that already with your business glossary. So if you have a business glossary, leverage that as a lot of the terminology you use, because hopefully you all have a sense of the definitions you use around customer or company or account or whatever you might call. The second V, harmonize to a common voice. Now, harmony doesn't mean everybody sings the same notes, but it does mean they all sound good together. So do you have an elevator pitch ready? If you get that call from your CEO, hi, come in, I want to hear what you're doing. Not because you're in trouble. CEOs rarely call employees because they're in trouble. They got other folks to do that. They usually want to hear about what's going on. Are you ready? If you're getting a little nervous already, then you're not ready. But that's good. I'd rather you be nervous in front of me instead of in front of them. You want to practice that. You want to get up in front of the mirror. You want to talk to people you don't know. You want to share it with your team. Do you all have the same story? Can you all explain it clearly? Or are people just making it up as they go along? Every athlete, every musician, every actor and actress, they rehearse, they practice, no matter how great they are. You got to do the same thing. You don't want to do it the first time when you really have to do it. You want to avoid all these technical explanations and these cliches I already talked about, data quality and data is the new oil. As you move your program along, you want to reinforce it with your own internal communication vehicles. Create an internal marketing program, if you will, to promote the power and value of data management. You may have to partner up with your analytics folks, but they're probably doing something like this already. You want to be able to highlight the value of this foundational activity. And if you're looking for imagery, if you're looking for a positioning, just borrow your own company. Look there first. Don't start with a blank sheet of paper or a blank screen. Look at your own company, what it does, what your brand message is, and do fun, creative things like replace the word, put data in there and see if it works. If you're a healthcare company, data is the lifeblood of our organization. A healthy business runs off healthy data. I saw a water utility CDO present. That was an easy one. They talked about how data needs to be filtered, it needs to be pure, it needs to be trusted, it's got to flow through the pipes. When you turn on the spigot, it's got to be dependable to come out. Lots of analogies. Everybody in the organization understands that. Same thing in a logistics company. They move things from one place to another. They are careful about that. Same thing with data. They all start to understand it by using the same terminology that your own organization uses about their own business. It's kind of a fun, creative exercise. I saw a guy from the Department of Defense in the US talk about how data is the payload for our organization. Not everybody can use that, but it worked. And another one that didn't was this wonderful data leader at a tobacco company who started talking to me about how data is like fresh air and you've got to breathe. I'm like, no, just don't go there, okay? It's all right, but just not for this room. So a little voice tip, seek out other storytellers in your organization. You've got them in sales, in marketing, in communications. They know how to put this kind of thing together. I know of some instances where people are data management departments being able to get resources out of marketing to help them put this program together and actually market it internally. Corporate communication departments are thrilled to be able to talk to folks about personal development activities like getting better at public speaking, getting better at storytelling and presenting. Those disciplines are the same no matter what the topic. In our case, it's data management, but you're going to be leveraging the same kind of techniques that sales and marketing and communications are already fluent in, those soft skills. And another reason is, if you're up against these folks for funding, they already tell a better story than you do, even if it's not as valuable. That's what they do for a living. So you got to be able to beef up some of those skills. And the last V here is illuminate the business vision. Everything you do in data must enable the strategic intentions of your enterprise. Why does working with data and managing it help your company get to where it needs to go? We talked about it already, relationships and brands. Listen to your own company talk about what they want to do and where they want to go, and they will mention things like relationships and brands in the terminology that's appropriate for your business. Know that they need data for that. They need the data to back it up. Now, a vision tip here, if you're struggling to know what it is, or actually you really want to use the words that your own business uses. Look at your annual report, not the back part with all the numbers, but the front part, the glossy, fancy part with all of the, the visionary statements. There's stuff in there. They'll never say, we need better data quality, but they will talk about relationships and brands, and that's your hook. Might be in your strategy statement, your company meetings, investor day presentations are a gold mine for that. You've got your whole executive team, full game day uniform out there trying to get money for the company. They're going to talk in very visionary ways. I'm not saying you use that against them, but if you present, here's what you said to the investment world, here's the data, we need to get that done. I know you want to do this. I'm telling you, we need to do these other things to help you get there. It's going to be hard for them to argue with their own words. A little sales trick for you. So the last couple minutes here, let me put this all in play. So we had to talk to a large global Fortune 200 organization. They're trying to sort of push this data management initiative over the finish line. They'd done the ROI, they did the business case, they had the vendors picked, they had all the other how stuff that they had to do. But they still weren't getting the right kind of attention. Their leaders still felt it was kind of clerical, it was siloed, it was back up, fine, just do it. Why are you bothering me with it? So they didn't get the funding they needed. So a very short version of the help I gave them that we did, but hopefully this will give you an example of how to do this for yourself. So this is a composite of their investor day presentation, a couple of snippets from their slides. Let's find the 3 V's. So the first V I want to look for is vision. Let's see if I can find it. It says our vision. It's right there. You're going to find it that easily. It's not tough to locate. Our vision, we aspire to be the premier partner of choice for our customers and suppliers. Relationships. Bingo. Right up there. You don't have to go much further. Their voice was inherent in a lot of their strategic framework: customer engagement, enterprise effectiveness, brand management, grow the business, improve the business, protect the business. They want to differentiate that customer experience. A lot of data, you need to do that, don't you? Operational efficiency, localized productivity, lots of things that are data and technology oriented to deliver value to the relationships with their brands at scale. And finally, their vocabulary was certainly behind the scenes in a lot of these company fast facts, 90 plus countries. This company grew by merger and acquisition. You can just imagine all the legacy systems they had to try and integrate and harmonize at the data level. 800 suppliers, 100,000 customers. Did they have the right hierarchy? Did they have the right taxonomies? No, they didn't. It was a mess. So with this vision in mind, we had to show them if they had the data to back it up. And here's a single record example. Not that this was the only thing we showed them, but just for dramatic effect here. We took a look at their customer master. We bounced it against a third-party data source and saw that they had, in this case, the data reality, 185 duplicates of the same record. How could they possibly aspire to be the premier partner of choice for Panasonic mobile communications with 185 copies of the same record? This stuff's a mess. This is the definition of garbage in. There's nothing strategic about it. They got no excuses. Did this company ever search before they created? I think their sales force was incentivized to add more records for Panasonic. This is a mess. You cannot fulfill that vision if that's the kind of data you're dealing with. So vocabulary, again, the words you use, voice, the way you talk, and vision, why it's important. And the best arguments, according to Richard Powers, one more reinforcement here, wonderful novelist, the best arguments in the world won't change a person's mind. The only thing that can do it is a good story. So if you want to live happily ever after in the data management space, remember every enterprise has a data story to tell. It's about why you're going to deliver value to your relationships through your brands at scale. Two types of data storytelling out there, don't forget. One about data, data management, determining the truth, and the other with data, business intelligence, deriving meaning. You want to balance the how and why. I focused only on the why today because it doesn't get a lot of coverage, but you got to balance it. If you got sizzle, you need steak. If your head's in the clouds, you got to have your feet on the ground. If you got this great vision, it still has to be practically executed. So you want to balance those two things. Hopefully I showed you at least more of the why side. You want to avoid those false starts. We need better data quality. Data is the new oil, blah, blah, blah. Leverage these 3 V's of data storytelling, vocabulary, voice, and vision, and an effective narrative captures the hearts and minds of your business and will actually unify and motivate your team. More often than not, I've seen a lot of team members, even in the data department, not quite sure why their work is so important. You got a data steward group out there. They should know why the work they do directly connects to the value and the vision of their own company. That'll be an inspiration for them. The last page of my book, I'm not spoiling the book here, but the last page, I say hardware comes and goes, software comes and goes, data remains. You'll have new hardware. You have new software. You really only get one data, so take care of it. So I want to thank again my sponsors, Wind Shuttle, Comma Group, and the wonderful folks at the MDM Marathon, Master Data Marathon 3.0. Please join us there. Let me help you tell your data story if I can. You can start by buying the book if that's something that, strikes your fancy there. If you go to technicspubs.com, use my code DATAWhisperer, you'll get 20% off. But I do webinars, I do internal meetings, I do team sessions for both enterprises and the tech brand supplier side, all focused on reinforcing the value and power of proper data management. At the very least, follow me on LinkedIn. Put your phone up to that QR code. It'll take you right to my profile. Talk about being a data guy. I've got 50 plus videos on YouTube, as well as my own website, metametaconsulting.com. If you search for me, Scott Taylor, the Data Whisperer, I start to come up above the fold now. That's thrilling after doing this for a couple years. But if any of this content helps you make a point, validate your position, even show like a third party saying what you're saying, which often helps, use it, take it. You can't steal it from me. I'm giving it to you. That's my role in the space. We all have a part to play. This is mine. I stick to my lane. I think I play it well, but I stick right to it. And hopefully some of this can help you do what you need to do. So I'll take a breath here. I want to thank everybody and the organizers for setting this all up. We'll see if you have any questions. I don't know if we're leaving right at the top of the hour, but that's telling your data story. And thank you, DAMA Iceland, for having me.
So thank you very much, Scott. That a lightning and fun lecture about data management.
That's me.
That's you. Excellent. So we probably have a few questions, but I one point that I always find interesting that basically people working with data management, basically they're nerds, in a way at least, and we always think the top management they do not listen to our story. Well, we have to change management, but we have to learn storytelling. That's the thing. You have to understand the meaning and so on, what you're saying, and then how the audience. But okay, questions.
I'm seeing somebody correct. Oh, thank you. It's not Technics Pubs. Oh, thank you very much. I've been sending people the wrong site. Looking at the track here. Yeah, my code is Data Whisperer if you're interested in that. See somebody's posted all my links. Thank you so much. And Data Bedtime Story was fun. You all know that story about the little red hen who's trying to make the bread and goes to the pig and the cow and the dog for help to make the bread. Just took that same story, made it into a data story, and practically wrote itself. So hopefully you can watch that too with my grandson. I don't know if anybody's got any questions or thoughts or anything else you want to cover. Happy to answer anything anybody might have.
So there are 2 questions in the Q&A.
Oh, okay, great. Let me see here. Feel free to post.
Yeah, please do.
Icelandic is a beautiful language. Where's the?
Yeah, that's a chat.
Oh, Q&A. Oops. Oh, here we go. All right. Oops. Do you have any favorite data story? One for sure is, it was a way that kind of got a business person to sort of go over the line, and it's a version of that story with all those duplicates. You do have to have that part of it. It's kind of showing somebody their baby's ugly. It can be a little painful. But I was with the CEO of a global organization. We were reviewing their customer master. These folks had a huge field force. They figured they knew, all their folks in distributor base knew where all these locations were. They were delivering products to locations. And so I was at Nielsen at the time, and we provided a better outsource for location information for companies like this. And so part of the process was kind of showing them where their own work wasn't really hitting the mark and that they had to get some help. And we started off, so the way we approached it was pretty strategic and a little bit dramatic. So we had 10 examples of their bad data, and it got worse and worse and worse. That was the point. So we started kind of with some easy ones. You've got 47 here, we've got 48 here, you've got some hierarchies, you're missing this division, we have this, and he's like, yeah. We got to about 5. Number 5, it got increasingly worse and worse and worse and more complicated. And we got to number 5, and the COO just puts his head in his hands and he goes, "That's enough. Okay, enough. Talk to Janet." Janet was our sponsor there. She was all thrilled because he said, "Yes, we clearly have to fix this." Obviously, we started with more of a, this is where you're trying to go. It's important to have distribution and all these other sort of strategic initiatives, but we had to fill it in with this whole list of examples. And a very important part of that story is we had 10, but we only needed to show 5. And even though the last 5 were even more spectacular, when somebody says yes to you, my daddy taught me, I'm 4th generation sales here. When you get the yes, shut up. Stop talking about it. You got the yes. So we didn't have to rub his nose in the next 5. It was like, okay, we'll move on here. But it was a very, still gives me chills thinking about how we changed that guy's mind who sort of came in like, we're fine. And then we just showed him up, just pounded him with this stuff in a respectful but forceful way. And sometimes you got to rub people's nose in it. Make your own version of, the terrible data. I've got a exhibit in the book and a slide that I've been using for 25 years, which shows the 275 ways one company spelled a customer name. 270, it's like, again, they're incentivized to come up with new ways to do it. It's a mess and you can't hide from it. That is the garbage in, but you've got to show it to them in a way that they understand that the work they want to do with analytics isn't going to happen if you've got this kind of messed up, disparate data underneath. Oh, is there another way to convince management about data management other than telling stories? I mean, telling stories is the way that people communicate, since long ago. So I would say maybe kind of that example I gave just now, having that backup, but I don't know how you communicate without telling stories. I don't know how you use that. I look at that word convince, unless it's, can't put a gun to somebody's head. I guess that convinces people, right? The old Godfather story. Either your signature is going to be on this contract or your brains. It's, it's not, it's not how we work, right? So I don't know. I don't know a way. So my short answer is no. I don't know another way to convince management of something without putting whatever those results are, those objectives, those things you want to try and do in some kind of story format. Let's see. I am curious whether there are any special considerations about data management for smaller scale organizations, especially smaller startups and ambitions. That's an excellent question. So I work at the enterprise level, and at that enterprise level, you can debate about what the lower border is, number of, 100 employees or whatever, but above that, it gets really complicated. When you're just starting off, it's hard to get somebody to convince to do like a big MDM program because you just simply don't have enough data to manage at that level. And you can get by with, 37 customers in Excel. And so accept that, know that, but think when you talk about that bigger vision, just highlight the fact that as we scale, this is going to be a critical ingredient for us to scale. So we're not putting in a big MDM program because we got, 5 of us working here and 12 customers. But when we get to 1,000 customers and $100 million or 50, whatever it happens to be, what happens is when the clue is when they start to talk about putting in bigger systems, ERP system, bigger CRM that isn't, a CRM that isn't the whole company's, everything everybody does. That's when you want to start introducing the voice of data management and starting off correctly, because eventually you're going to have to fix it no matter what. But making sure, okay, we're going to get this big Salesforce or, SAP system in here, you got to fix the data before it goes in there. So that's the time. But it's very hard, and I don't actually recommend that a startup with 2 folks in a garage with a brilliant idea, there's not a lot of data to manage yet. But build that story from the beginning and show that if you want to take that leap, start to scale things, that's when we're going to need this to really be serious. So hopefully that helps. Let's see here. You want me to keep going? Forgot any types of stories that are told between regions or countries. For context, the approach we've seen applied in other countries don't necessarily work in Iceland. Would love to hear some Icelandic data stories that work. I don't know any in particular, but I haven't been to Iceland yet. So when I go, you can, prove me wrong if you like. But at the enterprise level, you have enterprise data, you have enterprise data management problems and objectives. So I don't see a difference geographically. There might be things geographically that don't apply to what goes on in Iceland versus Europe or the US. I'm sure there are, culturally, business-wise, a lot of factors. But an enterprise, company as an organism, multiple silos, create disparate data with differing definitions that lack internal standards. That's kind of a common thing I see everywhere. So I've not seen something specific to any geography from this data management perspective. The only geography that is, Earth, that's it. If you're on Earth, you have these kind of problems. When they open up business on Mars, they're still gonna have data up there we're gonna need to structure. But if you're on Earth in commerce, you got these kinds of problems. That's what I've seen. All right. Good way to get started. Yeah, start at the beginning. Start with those 3 V's. Start collecting your examples, understanding your business. Advice I give everybody, advice I gave my kids when they went into business. I said, it's impossible for you to know too much about your business. Impossible. You may never know everything, but especially a data person, go and hobnob with the rest of your business associates there. Have a call or a lunch with sales, have with finance, ask them what their problems are. Don't start by selling your data, because if they don't see the connection yet, you're not going to get there. You want to start by, so what kind of issues are you having? What's your biggest issue? What kind of challenge, what efficiency? How long does it take you to do this? Are you, know a little bit about that department, because the characteristics of a finance problem are going to be different than the characteristics of a sales problem. And sometimes you want to save the data answer for later. Just collect it. Again, I've got all this sales training, marketing training that I lean on. You never walk in and say, let's do a demo. So what are the problems? What's your business? What are you doing? Where are you trying to go? They'll tell you. And I found, at least in my position, it's like, You're a doctor. You just want to hear the pains, the sufferings, the symptoms. And that's where my observation came that so many of these things are the same. People are saying the same stuff to me, no matter what kind of company they're in. You know, we have all these silos. Really? Imagine that. I haven't heard that since lunch, and I just ate. You know, it's so similar. It's so similar. So let's see here. I guess I answered them. Anything else? Oh, great questions, everybody.
So yeah, probably no more questions for now, at least.
All right.
Very good.
Well,
no, we got one. We got another question there.
Oh, where? Oh,
what have been some of your biggest challenges?
My biggest challenges, personally, a lot of it came from some of the stuff that I've kind of solved for myself, was kind of getting through. I tell a story in the book where I was working for Nielsen. We had this incredible service that I helped kind of reposition and figure out the value of. I go to this large packaged goods manufacturer, the IT department, because in those days, you know, data was all IT, right? There was no CDO, there was no data department at all. They were behind it. They're like, let's go talk to the head of sales. So I'm talking to the head of sales, blah, 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 blah. I think I'm done. And he just leans back and he goes, you know, I'm sure this stuff you're talking about is great, but I just have to sell more bread. And I don't see how this helps me sell more bread. Obviously, they were a bakery. And I left, you know, it's a long drive back to the airport with that one. And that for me was kind of an epiphany of, you know, customer's always right. I knew he was wrong. What we did could help. The IT folks understood that too, but I wasn't explaining it well enough. I didn't have the right kind of story approach that helped him understand the benefits of what I was trying to talk about. And it just sounded like, it's like, why are you even bothering me with this? You know, let the IT folks figure it out. So, you know, some of my challenges are around that and trying to help people understand where that value is. And again, back to the question about story time. I mean, I don't know any other way than to tell, you know, to work on your story. Super.
Super duper. Very good.
All right.
So, yeah. So probably nearing the end, or at the end, basically. So I want to thank you, Scott, for a very good lecture. Excellent, you know, start for us. Hard to top this. So I want to remind people in Iceland also that, you know, because of the DAMA Iceland branch, we have the our website, dama.is, and we also have a Facebook page and LinkedIn. So please, you know, leave us a message, something if you have any ideas of, you know, something you would like to talk about, or, you know, thoughts, whatever. So yeah, brilliant. So yeah, people probably want to, you know, it's Friday, it's a tough day. It's in Iceland 50 minutes past 5, so to the pub.
Well,
so thank you very much.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for giving me your time today. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Scott. Bye-bye.